Story 1. 1990 Volvo 240 wagon. 5-speed manual transmission. Most comfortable seats I have had in a car and plenty of room for activities. Story 2. Volkswagen Mark 7 Golf Grand Touring injection with manual transmission. My current car, so nice to drive and practical, but also very fun and high-performing. Edit. Grand Touring injection owners rejoice. Story 3. Believe it or not, my 1995 Grand Cherokee. I drove that vehicle to 180,000 miles with only a couple of visits to the mechanic. The engine on that vehicle would not die. I bet it is still out there laughing at weaker engines. Story 4. 1970 Datsun 240Z with dual carburetors, racing suspension, and boy, it was a blast to drive. Subsequent models were 500 pounds heavier and did not handle as nimbly. Story 5. 1992 Honda Accord. My first car, got it with 200,000 miles, sold it with 420,000 miles. It was still running with a good clutch. Story 6. Mazda Miata first generation. Rock-solid reliability, drives like a go-kart, and is the perfect daily city driver to blast down narrow streets and wedge into tiny parking spaces. I miss that car dearly. Story 7. 1986 Buick Grand National. I loved that car. Fast, fairly good on fuel, and T-tops were nice. Sadly, I was hit by a drunk driver and the car was totaled. I would like to find another one at some point, but since there were not many produced, they are very pricey now. Story 8. My 2011 Subaru Technica International wagon. I have had it for 14 years with 150,000 miles on it. It still has the original clutch and has not had a single major issue. It has taken me on countless trips and adventures and has never failed me. It is also really fun to drive. Story 9. 2002 Saab 9-3 Turbo Anniversary Edition. That car had the most comfortable leather seats I have ever experienced. I could drive for hours without feeling the need to stop and get out. It featured leather-covered door interiors, a leather-covered dashboard, and real wood grain around the gauges and controls. The stereo system was excellent. It also accelerated quickly and performed well in snow with the right tires. Story 10. 2003 Lexus IS 300 Altezza. Regret selling it, to be honest. Super reliable, fun rear-wheel drive with good torque, cool looking, and luxurious inside. The only downside was its gas mileage due to the inline 6-cylinder engine. I was lucky if I could get 20 miles per gallon in the city. Story 11. 1995 Nissan Hardbody 4x4 single cab with wheels and tires, roll bar, and winch bumper. Manual transmission. Story 12. Ford Crown Victoria. It is time for it to be replaced, and I cannot find anything that will fit in the void it will leave. Story 13. I had a 2007 Lexus with all the reliability of a Toyota under the hood but looking like a luxury car. I put almost 200,000 miles on it before I traded it. Story 14. It was not the best car I ever owned necessarily because it did keep having issues, but I had a 1993 Saab 900S that I absolutely adored and would not have traded for anything. Story 15. My 2006 Pontiac G6 just died for good, mainly due to rust. Now I have a 2025 Toyota crossover, and I love it. Story 16. My current car is a 2016 Lexus ES350. It is comfortable, it drives smoothly, and I have had no issues with it since buying it 6 years ago. I would definitely buy a Lexus again. Story 17. It's a toss-up. Opel Mantalussi's 5-speed or the 1978 Chevrolet Camaro. The Opel was really peppy, but the Camaro roared. Story 18. In 2014, I bought a 1990 Honda Prelude that had been driven by my grandmother. It had less than 100,000 kilometers on it and, besides a dented passenger door, was in mint condition inside and out. The pop-up headlights still worked. A man in an old Mercury stopped me to say he loved my car. I loved that car. One day, I was stopped at a red light when a driver of a Ford F-150 rear-ended me at full speed, hard enough to push me into the semi-truck in front of me. The impact demolished the radiator and totaled the car. In a final gift from that beautiful car, the insurance paid out $2,400, even though I only paid $1,000 for it. Story 19. 1990 Saab Turbo Convertible. Still have it along with some others. My trucks, all of them. My two favorites saved my life in serious accidents. Story 20. 2001 Pontiac Trans Am WS6. Manual transmission with T-tops. Very fun to drive. Third gear would get you to 95 miles per hour. Story 21. A 1994 Land Rover Discovery had 460,000 miles on it and just kept going. It ended up rusting badly. I should have fixed it. Still miss it. Story 22. 99 Jetta Mark III Wolfsburg Edition drove like a dream. The sound system was amazing. It had some typical Volkswagen problems, but I loved that car. For 2010 Mazda 3 hatchback. Quick, nimble, and roomy. Bose audio sounded excellent. I sold it to my sister for $3,000. The tree fell on it a month later, and she received $9,000 for it. Story 23. 2010 Hyundai Santa Fe. Bought it new 15 years ago. Currently at 210,000 miles and running like a champion. My 1992 Nissan Stanza or my 1999 Nissan Altima probably would have lasted longer, but accidents put both out of commission prematurely. Story 24. 2012 Chevrolet Silverado with 200,000 miles. I had to sell it due to unfortunate circumstances. I see it driving around from time to time. I miss that old truck. Story 25. A black four-cylinder 2005 four-door Volkswagen Jetta with an upgraded 10-speaker sound system and heated seats, which was very important to me at the time. I finally paid it off in 2010, but I lost it a couple of months later. It was towed, and I could not afford to get it back because I had quit my job to take care of my mom, who had moved in with me so I could care for her while she was dying. Story 26. 2002 Hyundai Sonata. I drove it for over 10 years, almost 300,000 miles. I finally donated it to Michigan Public Broadcasting Service. It was pretty rusted when I donated it, but other than that, there was seldom anything wrong with the car aside from routine maintenance. Story 27. 1980 Mazda RX-7. 5-speed manual rotary engine. Third gear could comfortably do 25 miles per hour or 85 miles per hour. It redlined at 8,500 revolutions per minute. Do not drive it in the snow or rain. Definitely do not let it sit too long, or the rotor will seize up. Story 28. I'll get downvoted, but the Tesla is impressive. If you have neck or spine pain, the self-driving feature works wonders. I'm against Elon Musk, but I am just waiting for another manufacturer to make a self-driving car that costs around $30,000. Story 29. A 2010 Ford Expedition. Put over 300,000 miles on that vehicle with no major repairs such as engine or transmission. It would not fail as if it had Chevrolet Cavalier DNA in it. Story 30. 1997 Lincoln Town Car was a beast of a V8 that drove like a turbocharged cloud. Its rear-wheel drive did not fishtail or spin out. Its size, weight, and metal would have outperformed any plastic car on the road. Once, I think a Hemi engine was being nice to me, but we were nose and nose on a straightaway until he peeled off. I think about that car often. Unfortunately, the frame rusted away. I wish I had the money to rebuild it. My next car was a 2006 Cadillac DeVille touring sedan. It was terrible. It had a V8 32-valve Northstar engine. It was too big for the car, like a cougar dressed as a kitten. Going over 45 miles per hour? Don't hit that pothole or you'll damage the car. I sold it when I left it on the lot. I have a 2024 Tucson now. It is okay. The warranty is nice. Story 31. 1991 Nissan Sentra SER. Bought it used in 2000. Drove it as my daily driver for the next 15 years. I would have kept driving it, but it seemed like everything failed on it at once. The repairs cost more than the car was worth, so I had to move on. Story 32. My 2016 Ram 1500, which I still have, has enough room for all my family, can tow my boat, and we use it for grocery shopping. The air conditioning is cold, and the heater is hot. It meets all my requirements and has reliably taken me on road trips without any issues. Story 33. If the Kia Soul came with an all-wheel drive package, I would still own one. It was durable, affordable enough that I did not care if it got damaged, had a lot of interior space, and achieved great fuel efficiency. I hated giving mine up, but I owed more on it than it was worth and had an opportunity to move into a different situation. Story 34. I have had a number of Volkswagen Golf cars in the past with a 2.0-liter manual transmission. I drove those cars hard, and they took a beating and kept on going. I am diligent with maintenance, which could be why they lasted so long. I intend to buy more of them. Story 35. Honestly, my 1991 Nissan Sentra. No bells and whistles. 4-speed. 5,000 miles per gallon. My dad did put in a CD player though. Now objectively, all the cars I have owned since that car are nicer and more modern. My current car is an Acura. But that little Nissan, she was the best car. I got her in 2000 right after I graduated high school, and she was the first thing I bought and paid for all by myself. I proceeded to drive her for 10 years. She got me through college and graduate school. When I was in graduate school and doing all of my field work in the backwoods of Alabama, she was a remarkable field vehicle. When her time came, I am not ashamed to admit that I cried in that dealership parking lot. Story 36. My current car is a 2004 Toyota Solara. It is still going strong at 322,000 miles. It has leather heated seats, power locks and windows, a sunroof, and the air conditioning still works. I love it. Story 37. 1995 Dodge Ram Extended Cab 4x4. Bought at 100,000 miles, gave to kid at 200,000 miles, now at 250,000 miles. Engine and transmission have never been removed. Absolute tank. Story 38. 2020 Kia Stinger GT. I loved that car. I got it on a lease. Then when my term expired, interest rates were high and there was too much value left in the car to justify keeping it. I traded it in, valued at $12,000 over what I owed on it. 2.5 years later, I still miss that car. Story 39. Ioniq 5 electric vehicle hands down. I am old and have owned many cars. Second place is a 1959 Chevrolet Bel Air. It is a distant second and only made the list for nostalgic reasons. Story 40. I'm ready for the arrows and downvotes. First generation Tesla dual motor Model 3. Infiniti G37X and Honda Prelude were the other vehicles I owned before the Tesla. Story 41. Best for being a reliable, inexpensive car to own. Honda Civic. Best for fun. Mazda Miata convertible. Story 42. 2002 Mercedes-Benz E324 Matic. Had it for over 18 years. Loved it until the electronics started to fail. Power window failure, power steering wheel adjustment failure, and a few other similar issues. Engine and transmission were still strong when I sold it, but repairs became too expensive to justify. Story 43. 1985 Honda Prelude. My first car owned in my name. No power windows, no electrics, just a 5-speed manual transmission, dual side draft carburetors, and pop-up headlights. Good on fuel, nice style, stock high-power Alpine cassette deck. Metallic blue with 2 white pinstripes from front to back. My dad helped me buy it from the auto auction on August 17, 1989. It had 79,900 kilometers. The speedometer cable was disconnected, and I reconnected it. The initial asking price was $5,400. After a bidding war, I paid $8,100. I paid my dad back since I was a bit short, but I kept my promise. Thank you for everything, Dad. Rest in peace. Story 44. 2010 Honda Insight reached 500,000 kilometers. I probably would have driven it much longer if I had not been T-boned. I was very sad to have to let go of that car. Story 45. 1990 Isuzu Trooper. It had 285,000 miles on it and a top speed of 80 miles per hour. It was manual and had large tires that I used to get over everything. I loved that truck, and it was running fine when I sold it. Story 46. 1992 Nissan Stanza. Beige or champagne as I prefer to call it, with a giant dent in the rear quarter panel, but it was mine. We called it George. I had dreams of adding a company in front of the Stanza badge but never got around to it. 3 friends and I drove that car from New York all across the country in a month back in 2007. It broke down twice. The alternator in Flagstaff, then in Las Vegas again, where we found out the Flagstaff shop had given us a faulty alternator because they knew we would not be back. Otherwise, it was solid as a rock. It finally stopped working on the way to the cake tasting for my wedding, and we donated it. I miss you, buddy. Story 47. Toss-up between my current Toyota GR86 and my 2016 Hyundai Genesis Coupe R-Spec 3.8. Very similar concept to both, but the Genesis Coupe is more a sledgehammer while the GR86 is a tack hammer. My first car will always have a special place in my heart. 1983 Honda Accord with 5-speed transmission. Just a great starter car. Story 48. I have owned 3 Subarus, and each one has been better than the last. My first one was a 2018 Crosstrek, which was perfect for handling the winters in Minnesota. Once I moved to Texas, I found that the high clearance was no longer necessary, so I took advantage of the used car shortage and got a 2021 Impreza Sport at 0% annual percentage rate. Around this time last year, I took my Impreza Sport in to get something checked and ended up walking out with a 2024 Impreza Rally Sport, which I absolutely love driving. I have had great reliability from all 3 of my Subarus, and the customer service I have received has been top-notch. Story 49. 1981 Pontiac Firebird. Lowered with centerline drag racing wheels and a T-top with manual transmission. What a looker, the same car from the 1980s show Knight Rider. The best part was that it did a fantastic job of draining my bank account to keep it running. Just when I thought I was good to pay rent. Voila! More engine and transmission bills. Story 50. 1991 Ford Escort station wagon. Really a surprisingly fun car to drive. Way better than it had any right to be. It was the sort of car that people would borrow and then awkwardly ask if I would sell it to them. No one could ever explain why they wanted it either. Story 51. Believe it or not, my 2010 Honda Insight has 200,000 miles and is still running smoothly with no issues. The only maintenance I have done is replacing the tires and changing the oil. Story 52. 2012 Volkswagen Golf turbocharged direct injection. Great handling, acceleration, fuel mileage, and dependability. The car was very durable. Manual transmission. I named her Trina because she was the toughest car. Story 53. Ford Focus 2014 with a manual transmission. In my more than 9 years of owning and driving 120,000 miles on it, the only repair I have had to do was to replace the stereo head unit. It is a zippy, fun, reliable car. I have heard horror stories about the automatic transmissions for that generation, which means more junkyard parts for me. Story 54. My Tesla Model Y is safe, fun, and a great size for a small family. It improves with every software update. Story 55. 1992 Toyota 4x4 pickup. Owned it for 20 years, 200,000 miles. I had to replace the radiator and the air conditioning compressor. Other than those 2 things, just basic maintenance. I sold it to a mechanic at my independent Toyota repair shop. Story 56. 1997 Toyota Corolla. My first car. I needed to jam a pen into the shifter to take it out of park. I totaled it at the very young age of 105,000 miles. Jeep Cherokee Sport 1999. Amazing vehicle, but the interior was not very large. However, it retained its value. I got it in 2004 for $8,000 and sold it in 2015 for $5,000. I have had 3 Toyota RAV4S since then. 2011 with almost 200,000 miles, 2016 with 114,000 miles, and I just picked up a 2025 hybrid with 190 miles. I towed a lot with the former 2. Amazing vehicles. Story 57. 2019 Frontier SL. Nostalgia-wise, it reminds me of a 1984 Chevrolet S10 with the bench seat. That truck was a rust bucket, and the bed was not attached properly, but I have so many great memories in it. Story 58. I have owned about 43 cars, so it would be easier to say which were the worst. One was a 1964 Volkswagen Beetle. I have had 4 BMWs, 3 of which were new 328i hardtop convertibles, making it a three-way tie. However, my current car is a 2019 BMW 740i, and I am pretty happy with it every time I drive it. As unlikely as this may seem, as a special mention, I had a 1972 Mercury Comet Coupe from 1980 through 1984. I hated the looks of it, but it was a reliable and pretty quick car. Story 59. 1995 Ford Ranger 5-speed. It has been in my wife's family since it was brand new. When we got married, her family gave us the Ranger. It is all original still, and I have had it for 3 years. I drive it daily. I drive it more than my 2018 Ford F-150. Story 60. 1997 General Motors Company Suburban SLT. I got it relatively cheap back in 2001. $17,000 plus a $7,000 trade-in meant I only financed $10,000. This is amazing, considering new ones cost $100,000 these days. Leather everything, great ride, very reliable. The only downside was the gas mileage, which was about 15 miles per gallon around town empty, and about 15 miles per gallon fully loaded on the interstate. That 35-gallon tank hurt even when gas was $1.50. I was told the minivan we traded it in for got better gas mileage. It did. 17 miles per gallon. Still sour about that. Story 61. The one I own now, and my first ever new car, is a 2020 Toyota Corolla Hybrid. The car I had immediately prior to this was a 2000s Volkswagen Jetta I bought from my girlfriend, now wife. It went through 2 engines because the timing belt tensioner broke on each one. It turned out to be a defective design and was the basis for a class action lawsuit against Volkswagen. Before the second engine failed, I asked the Volkswagen mechanics at a Volkswagen specialty shop what cars they drove, and they swore by Toyotas. The Jetta was going in for service every 6 weeks or so, so when the second engine failed, I knew I wasn't going back to Volkswagen. Story 62. 1995 Toyota Camry 4-cylinder. I bought it with 180,000 miles and sold it with 332,000 miles for the same amount. Everything was still working properly, and the dashboard was not even cracked. Great car. Story 63. I really miss my 2015 Civic C. It had a trunk lock feature where you take a small key out of the key fob and lock or unlock the trunk from a spot next to the driver's seat. Even if someone smashed the windows, the trunk would not open without using the key from the key fob to unlock it. Story 64. 2002 Toyota Camry Limited Edition. 278,000 miles. Still my daily driver. It amazes me how many I see from that era. I count them as I drive. Story 65. I am a man, and for me it was my Subaru Outback in forest green. After my first one, I have only purchased Subarus. Story 66. I had a 1985 Mitsubishi Eclipse that I absolutely loved to drive. That was a fun little car. My most reliable vehicle was a 1996 Grand Marquis with the Interceptor motor. It performed exceptionally well and provided a smooth ride. Story 67. Toyota Prius. 55 to 60 miles per gallon. When gasoline was over $5 per gallon, I think I paid over $30 for a full tank twice. The gas tank is small because it does not need much gasoline. It is hard to drive a gasoline car after you have a Toyota Prius. You feel like you are throwing money away. Story 68. 2002 Isuzu Rodeo. Put 250,000 miles on it. Once drove about 40 miles with the timing chain loose, and it only died once when I parked it at a gas station right next to my house. Story 69. My current car is a 2013 Subaru Legacy 3.6R. I love it. It is reliable, simple, and easy to work on. It performs amazingly in all types of foul weather and winter conditions. It has enough power for some fun while being a family sedan. I have invested about $5,000 in an excellent audio system. Story 70. My current car is a 2019 Kia Stinger GT1 rear-wheel drive. Before that, my first car was a 1977 Datsun 810 with a 280Z engine. Story 71. In 2010, I bought my first car, a 1994 BMW E36 325i. It was rusted badly on the body. The door panels and cabin were falling apart. But that inline six-cylinder engine was absolutely spectacular. And I have never driven a car since that felt as glued to the road. True, raw driving pleasure. I will never love anyone or anything like I loved that car. Story 72. 1999 Acura Integra SE. Manual transmission. Put almost 500,000 kilometers on it. Was still running perfectly with almost all original parts, including the clutch. Sold because my 6-foot son no longer fit in the back seat. It was a two-door model. Story 73. 2003 Subaru Forester Cross Sports. Absolutely love it, but it's time to let it go. Always wanted something like a sleeper, and I've had my fun with it, so it's for sale. What I'm fed up with is the lack of refinement, bumpy, noisy interior, fuel consumption of 16 miles per gallon is horrible, and unfortunately, in the country I'm from, there are no manual gearbox versions available. So it's an automatic, and it is a really poor automatic. It's precious to me, but it's time to move on. Looking at a 1998 Mercedes-Benz W202, a C200 with a manual transmission which feels really great to drive. Story 74. 75 and 78 LTDs and 92 Crown Victoria. A 76 Hornet Sportabout was a great car for different reasons. The worst were all Dodges. Although I had a Lebanon that was fun, it was a serious fire risk. The Chevrolet pickup trucks were disappointing. Story 75. A 1995 Toyota Camry wagon was seemingly unkillable. It was my dad's last car before he passed away. It sat in a marsh for 2 years before I got it as my first car. I had to change the brakes, and the radiator fell apart. I put over 100,000 miles on it in 5 years, and just before it hit 250,000 miles, the computer that controls the engine died. I sold it to a man who rewired it enough to run, and he derbied it for me because the derby was one of my dad's favorite pastimes. It didn't win, but it was an awesome last ride. I have had the original key hanging from all my car's rearview mirrors since then. Story 76. 1991 Acura Integra. Bought it totaled in 2004 for $1,300 from a woman who T-boned a minivan with it. Used a half-inch chain bound to a parking bollard and reverse pulled the core support away from the motor. Drove it like that for about a year, including trips from Wyoming to British Columbia, Canada. Then backyard rebuilt the front end and drove it for another 4 years before it literally rusted and fell apart. In those 4 years, the distributor rotor retaining screw sheared off. I thought I bent valves, but they all survived. The timing belt snapped at 116,000 miles on the way back from Denver. I thought the valves were damaged then, but no, they survived and it ran fine after replacing the belt. Had a spark plug come apart while driving. Everything besides the plug was fine. Numerous other issues occurred that I would normally have considered fatal for the motor, but no, that car would not die. Even after the core support and everything attached fell off, the engine and transmission were still running. Story 77. 2010 Toyota Prius. Purchased in 2017 with 53,000 miles for $11,000 using a loan at 2% interest. Drove over 100,000 more miles over the course of 7 years with no issues except for oil changes, one flat tire, and a brake job including calipers. Story 78. I bought a 1996 Honda Accord used right out of high school. It handled cross-country trips, camping, and even some unexpected off-roading experiences. I loved that car and took very good care of it. It was easy to work on and did not require much maintenance or repairs. After 8 or 9 years, I had to leave the country for a year, so I gifted the car to my aunt who was going through a difficult time. When I returned, the paint was peeling and the seats were moldy. It was almost emotionally devastating to see. Story 79. 2017 Toyota GT86. Perfect handling. Sufficient space. low ride height, fuel efficient, easy to work on and maintain. Story 80. In 69 years of car ownership, my 2015 Toyota Avalon is faster and handles better than the muscle cars I have owned. It also achieves up to 32 miles per gallon highway mileage at 75 miles per hour. Story 81. 2018 Kia Stinger. It was a free car I won, and I drove that car everywhere. It was lightning quick and made all the sports car noises. I loved that car and sold it when I moved to a city that did not require a car. I was also able to use the money from that car to pay off my student loans. I miss you, Silver Bullet, wherever you are. Story 82. 1966 Corvette Stingray. Still own it to this day. Driving it scares me, but the roar of that 427 cubic inch L72 engine will never fail to excite me. Story 83. A 1988 Volvo 760 Turbo. Big, fast, extremely comfortable, rode like a limousine. I wish I had restored it and kept it. Oh well. Story 84. My current vehicle is a Nissan Patrol Safari Y61 Manual 2024 Legend Edition. It is the final edition of the car after decades of production. I waited 11 months after booking. The car is perfect in every way. I thought nothing could beat my previous manual 2016 Subaru BRZ. But this did. Story 85. 1997 Honda Civic Coupe HX with manual transmission. Achieves 40 miles per gallon on the freeway and is fun to drive. Fast but not too fast. Story 86. My 199 Mercury Tracer wagon. I got it for $750 with 220,000 miles on it and drove it for years until the clutch finally failed and it was not worth fixing. Kitty was not a pretty car, had no radio, and the air conditioning was broken, but she was very reliable and had room for me, my dog, my friends, and their dogs too. So many awesome trips to the Greenbelt happened in that car, and she made me a station wagon lover for life. They are as useful as a sport utility vehicle but get much better fuel economy, are easier to drive, and they handle like a car, not a car trying to be a truck. Story 87. Some years ago, I bought a 1994 Acura Integra Grand Sport Racing with 270,000 miles on it for $3,000. I drove it for 6 years and gave it only the most basic maintenance necessary to keep it on the road before eventually selling it for $3,500. 3 years later, I saw it on the road about an hour away from where I live. Story 88. My 1997 Toyota Camry is still the best car I have ever owned. I sometimes think about it while driving my Cadillac. Story 89. Best by far. 2016 Infiniti QX50. The vehicle lasted 9 years and 225,000 miles with only a battery and radiator replaced. It had Sherman tank-like indestructible build quality. The 3.7-liter V6 engine was fast and reliable. The car was only sold recently due to loss of vision in one eye. It did not have many safety features for lane guidance. The goal was to reach 300,000 miles or more. Favorite car was a 2003 Audi A4 convertible. It was very fun and brought smiles every day. However, it had oxygen sensor issues and had to be towed 6 times. It lasted only 126,000 miles and was totaled because of transmission failure. Replacement cost was estimated at $9,200 in 2009. In summary, the best and favorite cars were the 2016 Infiniti QX50 and the 2003 Audi A4 convertible. Story 90. 1999 Ford Taurus. V6 power but still pretty good on gas. Very roomy, good trunk. 275,000 miles with only basic maintenance. Story 91. I have had 3 Audi A8s. Fantastic vehicles. It is like if a spaceship and a limousine had a baby, it would be an Audi. But the maintenance on those vehicles is extremely high. Everything is going to cost at least $1,500. It is surprisingly sensitive for a high-end vehicle. The last one had suspension failure, and it was going to cost $13,000 to replace. I had the money but did not want to use it for car repairs. Also, do not waste your money with companies like CarShield. No matter the package, they will find loopholes to avoid paying for repairs. Story 92. I have never owned anything new as I never wanted to make payments, but I would have to say a Mitsubishi Galant. Story 93. 2006 Chevrolet Malibu 3.5-liter. Drove it through its final 3 years with the check engine light on. Still got amazing fuel economy for a V6 with a 4-speed automatic, like 34 miles per hour on the highway at 65 miles per hour. Ended up selling it still perfectly running with 247,000 miles on the odometer in 2018. Honestly, I wish I would have kept that car to see if I could kill that engine. Story 94. I still own a 1997 3/4-ton Dodge 4-wheel drive V10 and have had very few issues beyond normal maintenance, such as needing a radiator and a broken windshield due to a pheasant mishap. It astounds me. Story 95. 2001 Ford Explorer Sport Track. It was my father's before he gave it to me when I got my driver's license. It already had about 170,000 miles on it. I got another car a couple of years later, and he took it back and kept driving it until he gave it to my brother-in-law. It was totaled around 250,000 miles, but it would have kept going without the accident. We never had any problems with it. All we did was change the oil every 5,000 miles and buy new tires when they wore out. The air conditioning always blew cool air, the engine was solid, and the electrical system never failed. It was the Honda Accord and Toyota Corolla of ugly Ford trucks. Story 96. Most reliable and efficient. 2017 Toyota RAV4. Most fun to drive. 1992 Nissan 240 SX. I learned how to drift in this car, and my teenage years were filled with fun and trouble. Story 97. 1991 Volvo 240 wagon. 5-speed manual, with an estimated 450,000 miles on the odometer. A previous owner had installed frame braces and thicker sway bars from a turbo model. A new harmonic balancer pulley eliminated the slight idle vibration, making it smooth as glass. First gear was slow, but once moving, it was a very determined-feeling car. Thanks to the stiffening and high-quality Bilstein shocks, it had amazing road feel. The cargo area was huge for a passenger car. It was not flashy or fast, but it was extremely good. Body rust started to appear, so I sold it to a fellow Volvo enthusiast with welding skills who occasionally sends me updates. I miss it every day. Story 98. The car I have right now is probably my favorite, but the best car I ever owned was my 2014 Ford Escape. Story 99. 1994 Geo Prism. Manual transmission, rarely needs repairs. Traded for a Chrysler Town and Country that required frequent maintenance. Story 100. Hands down. No question about it. 2004 Honda Accord V6 sedan. That car dragged me through hell on nothing more than oil, brake, CV axles, and will changes for so many years. It was peanuts on insurance, maintenance, sometimes gas, and I took it from 180,000 kilometers to 460,000 kilometers in 6 years. Realtor, 3 brothers, parents, only 3 cars in the house. My tire literally fell off 3 times, and I panicked. After a $120 repair, I was driving again. I literally just scrapped it in March 2025, and the guy gave me good money, then another $25 because he saw I was sad and said, "Your rims are really nice, take some extra." All I could think was, God, this car took me through everything, tough life. And even when it's dead and going, it's giving me blessings. I seriously think sometimes that it was secretly an angel. Yes, sometimes my family was very poor and maintenance was delayed. Otherwise, I took really good care of it. Story 101. I have owned close to 50 cars, often 2 or 3 at a time. Volvo 240 wagon, Honda Accord, Toyota RAV4 with V6 engine. These were favorites. Honorable mention to the modified 1966 Volkswagen Karmann Ghia I owned briefly, which was amazingly fun to drive. Story 102. Absolutely loved my 1998 Citroën Saxo. It was my first car and it cost me only €800. It was the most reliable car so far. The people I bought it from saved it from demolition, fixed it up, and sold it to me. I got another couple of years of daily driving out of it without any issues. I was very sad when I crashed it beyond repair. Story 103. Love my 2014 Mustang. Easy to work on, no serious problems. Mine is approaching 140,000 miles, and I have no doubts about it reaching 200,000 miles. Story 104. Best for fun to drive and just an overall amazing machine. 2020 Bullet Mustang. Never gets old lighting that thing up. Best for overall quality and reliability. 2006 Subaru Forester. Bought brand new when my oldest son was born. Have had it 19 years now. Very few issues. Have spent maybe $2,000 total on maintenance costs excluding oil changes. 150,000 miles and keeps on trucking. Car I wish I had never sold. 1973 Volkswagen campervan. Bought it for $1,500 in 1999. Rebuilt the motor and customized the interior. Sold it for $3,500 about 5 years later. Easily worth $15,000 or more now. Story 105. I had a 1998 Toyota RAV4 that I drove to 201,000 miles. I took that vehicle down many back roads and never got stuck. Story 106. The one I have now, since 2017, is a Honda CR-V 2011. It has hardly any issues, is trustworthy, and maintenance is not expensive. Story 107. My current car, a 1998 Toyota Mark II, is something I love more than life. I plan to keep it in the garage for the next 3 years so I can be that old man with a 60-year-old car in the future. Story 108. 2007 Honda Civic C. It was very fun to drive around town. Not ideal on the highway or for trips lasting more than a couple of hours. However, it had a great engine, fantastic transmission, and was the most reliable car I have ever driven. I drove it until 2023 without making any modifications. I was an older driver and received many respectful nods from the local car enthusiast community. Story 109. 2015 Toyota Avalon. It is nicer than my girlfriend's Lexus, has everything, and a bigger engine. It rides smoothly and is literally perfect. Story 110. My former 2002 Honda S2000 and my current 2009 Honda S2000 are excellent for pure fun driving experiences. For functionality, comfort, taking the family out, hauling groceries, and picking up items, my former 2020 Honda Pilot was ideal. Story 111. I absolutely loved my Vauxhall Kaliber Deutsche Tourenwagen Masters. It might not have been my best car, but it is definitely the one I miss the most. Story 112. A 1994 Chevrolet Tahoe that I bought from a local seller. He said he made some modifications to the engine. All I know is that vehicle was fast, much faster than any stock Tahoe I have driven. It was also old, inexpensive, and quite worn, so I did not mind driving it aggressively. I had a lot of fun with that truck, but unfortunately it had high mileage and the engine started giving me problems, likely due to the modifications made to increase its speed. I only owned it for a few months. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.